life course. First, the training aim. As I said you at the beginning of my lecture, we will have work time with a lecture, not only a lecture, but also a work time. So totally, I can say today's training. So today's training aim is these three. By reflecting on our own past events, we will identify our strengths, weaknesses, and teaching identity, and build our foundation as teachers or as middle leaders. Number two, we will interact and reflect our own life course and relativize our perception and ourselves, colleagues, schools, and students. And number three, we will look to the future by looking back at the past. We have a training rules. Number 1, 2, 3. So especially number 3 is important. You have the right to pass. So you don't need to say all. You have right to pass. Please remember it. Life course studies began in Europe and came to Japan. So now I would like to introduce you 3 slides as a previous researchers. So first previous researchers words is this. For teacher-centered professional growth, it is effective to pay attention to teachers' personal journal, Uzen Sykes. And this is the number 2 previous research. This book was written by the, Professor Inagaki, who worked at Tokyo University. This is a traditional, famous book among life course research books. Please read it later. And the number 3 previous researches list. This book is written Takahira Kenichi. He is one of the, leading researchers in Japan in this area. Please read it later. Okay, then move to Teacher's Life Course Study Lecture. So now we are going to do these things. First, you can focus on teaching practice focused on as a teacher, and then encounters with children and colleagues, seniors, events that have affected you. And these things giving meaning and reconstructing past events and exploring teachers' identity. So now you have a big question. What is teaching identity? I can say, I can ask you these questions. What is important to you as a teacher? What did I become a school leader? What I want to achieve as a school leader or as a leader. So when you think about these things, you will lead to your answer, your teaching identity. This is my life course card. This is my life course card. Today, we are going to challenge to write our life course card before this lecture and work. Okay, please have the image. This is my life course card. When you visualize your life course as a teacher and draw a life course card, I can give you some perspectives. Number one is be aware of your career stage. Sorry. So I'm sorry, this is written in Japanese, but this is Osaka Prefectural Teacher Development Index of Teachers' Competencies. This is, 5 teachers' career stage. The bottom, the first one is, at the time of a recruitment, I can say when we are at the university to become teachers. And the second one, initial appointment period. The third one, middle leader development period. The next one is a middle leader deepening period. And the top of the career, the last of the career is career maturity period. So when you draw your life course card as a teacher, be aware of your career stage. So second perspective, connect events. What have happened as a teacher so far with ups and downs of your emotion. So connect events with your emotion. So up and down in the heart. This sentence is from a book written by a brain researcher. So the human brain has 2 systems, the thinking system and the emotional system. And I was referring to the fact that it is important for self-growth to focus on our emotions and sensations without putting a lid on them. So today, please focus on your emotions and sensation. The third perspective, reconstruct events by looking back now, not at that time, but by looking back now. The fourth perspective, scoop up your strengths and weaks and your teaching identity. Please make a metacognition. Okay. As I told you, this is my life course card. One sensei.
Yes, it's sent by chat in the chat box already.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. One sensei after slide A and sorry, sheet A and B in my slides. So please download them if possible. It's helpful for your work. Thank you. And go back to my slide. So let me, this is slide A. So in the middle of the figure, you can see a blue line. It is a ordinary line, ordinary tune. And the top of the tune, absolutely good and good, favorable, ordinary, low, and out of tune. And you can see the table and uh, uh, these are, you can see these letters in Japanese, but in English here. Number one, school, professional law. Number two, division, committee, club, research. Number three, memorable pupils or students and the children. Number four, influencers such as junior, senior, and projects and events. And number five, personal, uh, personal life. And you can write there, uh, here, how many years you belonged to this school from the year, fiscal year to fiscal year. In Japan, school begins in April and ends next March. So how many years and the term of the years you belong to this high school. Okay. So now let's begin the work. Let's draw life course curve. First, individual work. So first, table at the bottom of sheet A. Here, here, here. Fill in the 8 blocks, the right to the current. The left goes back to the school you belong to. You don't have to write down all the words. You don't have to need all. You are expected to write some key words on this area. And then figure on the top of the sheet A, please link please link it to the keywords in the lower table and write the ups and downs of the mind as a curve of great, favorable, ordinary, so on, so on, so on. It is not associated with a momental event, but with your emotion. That is the crucial point, not events, but the emotion. Okay, I will, we will have a only, uh, only, only 7 minutes, only 7 minutes. When, okay, we will have only 7 minutes to 40, 40, 40 to a 40 to a 40. Is it okay? Is it okay? Please go
Yes,
ahead.
yes, no problem.
No
Go
problem.
ahead.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay, Pro Makiko?
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. Are you done with your presentation? Have you completed your presentation?
Oh, sorry.
Have you completed your presentation? Have you completed your presentation?
No, no, no. Professor Makiko just asked the audience to try to fill out the
Okay.
sheet A, and
Yes.
she's giving 7 minutes to the audience to
Okay.
fill
Thank
out
you.
the form. So,
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Okay.
Thank you. As I told you, please you do not have to write down all items. Please write only the items that left impression to you. Okay. We don't have enough time, so please go ahead and connect these items to the ups and downs with your emotion.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. It's time. It's time. I'm sorry, we don't have enough time for making the life course cup, but please stop it. And now we have only 10 minutes left. Oh, if possible, could you write your impression when you write down your life course cup through chat? Only a few words are okay for me. Could you write down your impression about that, if possible? Oh, thank you. Very intriguing. Mhm. Happy and very excited. The life postcard remind back all the good memories and the sad memories. But you can see sad memory from a different view of points now. I think so. I hope so. Can I have a few members, participants? Oh, happy and feel, blessed. That's great, blessed. What a memory. Wow. Wow. What a memory lane. Yeah. You can pull back your life course like strings, like a strings. Oh, thank you, thank you so much. Flashback on how life has been going on. Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you so much. Remind all the memories ups and down. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, all of you did a great thing, I hope, I guess. Okay, so we have only a few minutes, so this is seat A, and after the webinar, you are expected to, write your strengths and weaknesses and teacher's identity. Remember what you wanted to do when you became a teacher. It is connected with a teacher's identity. So please try to write down the items on sheet B, I hope. So the reflection. So the theme of today's lecture and work is creating schools that leverage our strengths. So far, mainly we focused on our strengths, but what I want to tell you, creating schools that help each other with weaknesses. Peter Drucker, do you know Peter Drucker? He is said to be a god in management. He says in his books, being able to accurately state your strengths, do not focus on your weaknesses, but I think it is very important to make the culture atmosphere in schools where we can say, help me, help me, help me. Oh, I think it is very important because people have not only strengths but also weaknesses. So the more connected the team, the more we can say, please help me, this is my weakness. I think it is very important because to help one's weaknesses with one's strengths is to strengthen one's strengths. My pronunciation is confusing. I will repeat it. To help one's weakness is with to another's strength is to strengthen his or her strengths. So I think it's a wonderful word, help me, and it's a wonderful culture, atmosphere at the schools to for us to say, help me, oh, I will help you, help me, oh, I will help you. It is the period that we don't have enough time to help each other in Japan. Our teacher's job is said to be a black job because we teachers have to do a lot of things, but it's very important to make it clear our identity and make the atmosphere, culture at the school to say each other, help me, oh, I will help you. That is my conclusion. That is my conclusion. Thank you very much for listening and participating my training. Thank you. So we have 1 minute more. If you do not mind, please cooperate with the post survey. This is a QR code and also this is a URL. It's a very short survey. I hope you will cooperate with the survey. Okay. Doctor,
Yes, yes. I think I give them about 1 minute for them to complete the survey. Is it okay?
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor Makiko Tanaka, for the inspiring speech. Ladies and gentlemen, now is the time for our second guest speaker for today's session, Associate Professor Lim Feng Wang. Associate Professor Lim Feng Wang is a senior lecturer at the United Graduate School of Professional Teacher Education, Osaka Kyoku University, Japan. Her research interests include teacher education, lesson study, and foreign language education. As a teacher educator, she has been supporting K-12 teachers at different stages of their careers in Japanese public schools since 2017. She is currently working for teacher education programs for the professional learning of both pre-service and in-service teachers. Given her background as a language teacher, her research interests also include foreign language materials development, pluriannual approach, and foreign language classroom teaching and learning. Without further ado, shall we invite our next guest speaker, Associate Professor Lim Feng Wang. The title of her speech is Foreign Language Education in Japan, Current Issues and Future Prospects. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. And I just uploaded my PowerPoint slides in the chat box, so you're free to download. I already removed the photos and pictures in the slides, so you're free to keep them. All right. Now I'm going to screen share my slide while you're downloading the PowerPoint slide. Again, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this afternoon's e-forum. My name is Lim Feng Wang from Osaka Kyoiku University, and today I will be talking about the foreign language education in Japan. Although I use foreign language education as a case study, I try to showcase you the education issues in Japan in the general. So in my talk, I will mainly focus on the three parts. And the first one is the paradigm change in classroom. The second one will be the paradigm change in foreign language. And the third topic will be the paradigm change in teachers' professional learning. So for the paradigm change in classroom, I will be introducing the Giga School program. So if it is new for you, and Giga School program is a national educational policy in Japan, along with the pandemic. Now it provides one device, digital device, is either laptop or a tablet for one student with a high-speed network in all the schools, including elementary to high school and including the public and private schools. So now if you go to a Japanese school, every student has their own tablet and they are using it in the classroom. And for the paradigm change in foreign language teaching and learning, I will be introducing a recent approach, which is a plurilingual approach, which originated from the principle of the plurilingualism and pluriculturalism. I know Malaysia is also a multicultural and multi-language society, and I hope this will also resonate with some of your practice as well. At last, I will also introduce the ALT system in Japan. And ALT is the native speaker level assistant language teacher. And they are mostly foreigners. They teach together, team teaching with the Japanese teacher in EFL classrooms in most of the schools in Japan. So at first, to most of you, I don't know how much you know the education in Japan, but there are two photos to give you a image about what is EFL classroom look like in most of the Japanese schools. You could tell the foreign teacher is always called the ALT, and they are always teamed together with a Japanese teacher. So in an EFL classroom, you will always see at least two teachers to teaching the same lesson. And to start with the paradigm changing classroom, I'd like to invite you to look at this photo. This photo is a research lesson. If you're familiar with the lesson study approach in Japan, you could see a group of teachers from outside the schools and also inside the schools. They are observing a focused research lesson. And this is the English class in an elementary school. I guess it's grade 3 or grade 4, which is held in Kyoto. And I would like to ask you one question. How many teachers are teaching this English class? We can see there are observers, teachers, but how many teachers are teaching this particular English class? You can write.
2. 1.
Yeah, you can write your answer in the chat box. I will see. Yes, 2, 2, 2. Most of them 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. It seems like 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. 3. Yeah, we have the correct answer. There are 3 teachers teaching the same class.
Where?
Yeah,
Where
and I'm going
3?
to show you. Please follow my laser point. You can see this teacher. Can you see here? Right? This is the ALT
Oh.
teacher, and he's from Nigeria, from Africa, Nigeria, and he's the ALT. And did you see this teacher in front of the whiteboard? And she is the English teacher in the school. Can you also see the lady in the middle among the children here?
Yes.
Yes.
The
Yes.
homeroom
Yes,
teacher.
yes.
Yes. Also.
The homeroom teacher.
Yes, yes.
Except English, the homeroom teacher teaches almost all the other subjects, including Japanese language, social studies, mathematics, and art and other. So this is the homeroom teacher. And this is the English teacher. She only teaches English for the school. And this is the ALT teacher. So this elementary English classroom, they have 3 teachers. So I'm going to ask you, why they have 3 teachers in the classroom? What are the merits, advantages of having 3 teachers in one English classroom? What are the benefits? What are the advantages you can think of? Also, please type your answer in the chat box. Assisting, yes. Easy to control class. Do we need to control the class? Everyone can learn from each other. To evaluate, we have more teachers in the classroom to evaluate. Oh, monitoring, different opinion and teaching methods. Oh, is it a good thing? What about the 3 teachers have different ideas about how to teach a class? Hope it's not turned out into a chaotic class. Yes, to have more interactions, then students understand faster, they help each other. Yes, they are all good answers. And the next slide will show you exactly what are the best things for the children. You can see when it comes into group work, each teacher can team out with different groups. So they have different role playing, right? The children can practice more English with the teacher, and also the teachers can have roles, and they can go into to assist the group work, and they can also facilitate the individual learning. Yes, I saw all those answers in the chat box. Yes, that's right. So the more teachers means more help, more facilitation, and more attention to different children's individual needs and help, and being more supportive. And children, of course, get more attention, get more time to practice and interact with teachers, right? Yes. So these photos are taken before the pandemic. And this is what happened during the pandemic. It's this Giga school program. Basically, it provides digital device for each student, along with the high-speed network equipment. And from this slide, you can see what happened before one device for one student and what happening now with the one device for one student. To point out some important message is like the learners can be more individual learning, and which can deepen their own learning, which can suit the students with different interests, and it also helps teachers to collect more feedbacks and to get how learners' learning are progressing, and in a more easier way. And also the learners can have different tasks, can have more adjunctive learning task for each of the students at the same time. And it makes the teacher really, not the teacher is teaching, actually the focus is the learners are learning by themselves through all these devices, because the high-speed network is also provided. So it's more easier for students to collect and make their own learning plan, yes, and to do all their autonomous learning and to do more inquiry learning by themselves. So this is the image proposed by the Ministry of Education, and this is how the image of introducing Giga School program, and to secure every student has a digital device in the school. And also they are also allowed in some schools, in some cities, and they also allow the students to take their digital devices to work at home as well. So you can tell you're going to probably ask questions about, oh, that's, people say it's a national educational policy, but also people say it's not just educational policy, it's also economic policy, because can you imagine how many schools and how many students, and every student is guaranteed to have a digital device. It's rare, it's very costly. And the majority of the Japanese schools, I would say 95% of the Japanese schools are now equipped with all this Giga School program. And you could tell how much budget is cost, and how difficult it is to equip with all this software and also hardware as well, and also a challenge for teachers. And the teachers need to take a lot of workshops, and they need to think about, because it's a paradigm changing classroom, right? Now it's people sitting in front of the blackboard, and now they have the tablet in front of them. So it's totally different. And the main purpose of the Giga School program, it says here, is like to optimize, to bring optimized and creative learning to all students, and to make sure the students will survive or live in the society 5.0. So it's Society 5.0 new to you. So it's a term actually proposed by the Japanese government. And here is the supplementary information for you. And you could say it's Society 5.0. It's starting from 1.0, from the hunting society to now the big data and robot and AI things. And this slide also gives you image about how economic and social innovation has been growing by deepening the society of 5.0. Hunting society, agrarian society, industrial society, information society. Now we have the super smart society, which is we are actually undergoing now. And under this background, so how to make our students to be able to survive or living in the current and the future society. Here are some keywords we need to be aware as an educator. Like what kind of the society now, right now? It's a society where the value is more created, and it's a society where anyone can exercise diverse abilities. And it's a society where anyone can get opportunities at any time and anywhere. And also it's a society where people can live and pursue challenges in security. It's also a society where humankind lives in a harmony with nature. So it requires collaboration, it requires autonomous learning, it requires of resilience, it requires diversity requirement meet to the diverse learning needs. So this is the image to help you to transfer your mindset as a teacher, as an educator, and how to be equipped with the Society 4.0 to the Society 5.0. So I'm going to show you some photos about what is classroom looks now in most of the Japanese schools. You could say this is the elementary school. The children are using headphones and they are learning through the laptop. and you could tell they're sharing, and they can do more investigation, they can do more sharing, and they can keep their learning history, and they can recording the class and the handout and all the design of the blackboard. And it also changes the language classroom as well. Instead of everyone repeat after me, and now they can talk more, listen more. It's going to be more customized, and because of the internet is everywhere, so it's also easy for them to do communications with the schools and with their peers and from abroad. It's more easier at doing it. And until now, we say we don't have any access to communicate with others. Now it's all totally equipped in every classroom. So this is going to change. This is changing the language, especially a foreign language classroom until now. So for the current and for the future classroom, what is it going to be? And this is the thing I guess we are all facing, is about the classroom are going to be more focused on AAAL learning, the AI-assisted autonomous learning. The learners are going to learn by themselves, but they need guidance, they need facilitations from the teachers, and they need help from the teachers, but not only listening to the teachers' lectures. Actually, this diagram and these definitions of the AAAL actually is generated by the ChatGPT. So you could tell how it can help our teachers. We cannot stop our students from using Google Translation, from using ChatGPT to write, report, anything. We cannot stop from that. We need to how to apply this and help learners by using this actually to get their better performance about their language, about their critical thinking, about their responsible learning. All right. And also with this idea, it also aligns with other international organizations like OECD or UNESCO. They're all saying the same thing, like we're in a big transition phase of the public education. And until now, we're all transmit the contents to the next generation. But now from content transmission, we need to change it to an inquiry-based learning approach. The learners find out what they want to learn, and they learn how to learn, and they make their learning plan, and they learn, and if they find problem, challenges, and some things they are confronting with, and they need help. And they can seek help from the teachers, from all those AI-assisted equipment, and then to make sure they can learn and design and overcome the learning by themselves. This is the trend of the education. I guess it's common for all the international societies. So until now, we actually reviewed together about the paradigm change in the classroom, especially under the Giga School program. And next, we're going to move to the paradigm change in foreign language teaching and learning, which will be focused on introducing the plurilingual approach. So now it's thinking time for you again. I'm going to ask you this question, and I would like you to type your answer in the chat box as well, but accept the answers. For job, for entrance exam, for talk to foreigners, for traveling, accept these answers. What are the main purpose of learning English as a foreign language? Please type your answer in the chat box. So if you are English teacher and some students asked you, why do I need to learn a foreign language? If I can't just use a translator and or interpreter, why do I need to learn English as a foreign language? Not to talk to a foreigner. I don't talk to foreigner. Not for job. I can't find a job without requirement of learning a foreign language. It's not to get into the entrance exam for college for a graduate student. No. What are other purpose legitimate purpose as a teacher, you can tell. For knowledge, I can learn knowledge in my mother tongue, in the language. I don't need to learn all the language in foreign language, in English. Communicate. I can communicate without knowing their language. To understand and join the world better. Learning more knowledge. Reading skill, communicate, universal language. We can see a lot of travelers, they are actually using a Google Translator or DeepL or other things. They just show it to you, and we can kind of communicate by body language, by by the broken language in all those ways. It can be communicated for just a sightseeing traveler level. But as educator, are there any educative purpose? Are there any educative purpose? Convincing purpose, like learning, we need it. I guess learning foreign language is a complete, it's necessary, it's a must do things in most of the public school education in whole of the world, right? And why it is a mandatory subject in all school systems in all countries? Is it just to have a universal language? Is it just to travel, to talk to foreigners? Well, I have an answer. I'd like to ask your opinion. Do you agree or not? The main purpose of learning English as a foreign language is to facilitate learners to deepen their understanding of their mother tongue, like the Japanese in this case. This is the answer proposed by a Japanese foreign language educator, a scholar. Do you agree with this one? The main purpose. Do you agree with this statement? The main purpose of learning a foreign language actually is to help the learners to learn better about their mother tongue. Well, with this statement, actually it means to learn a foreign language, the final target language is actually our first language, the mother tongue. So along the way, the English should be considered as a reference language to study your mother tongue in an objective manner. So it means, while during learning foreign language, of course, we listen and we speak and we write, we kind of get our language performance better. Using English as an international communication tool is just an incidental effect. So it's not the main purpose, it's the side effect, right? And how could this happen? So this is the diagram. It's proposed by a very famous linguistic psychologist in Japan, Otsu. He proposed this diagram to state how language education is done, especially how language education done in Asian countries, which English is not their first language. So first we learn our mother tongue, the first language. So by learning the first language, our metalinguistic awareness means our sense, our understanding about the language. It gets cultivated. So by using the metalinguistic awareness, we learn a foreign language. And in learning a foreign language, it further enrich our metalinguistic awareness, which can deepen our understanding of our own first language and mother tongue. And during this cycle, all the mother tongue and the foreign language are being used effectively, and we can gain the language competency and to equip us with learning the language, how to use the language. So how do you think of this language education diagram? So just one of the theory proposed by this scholar. And actually this statement also has some theoretical background foundation as the supporting theory. which is the well-known Cummins, the iceberg analog. And you could see this, it's the hypothesis about the linguistic interdependence. You can see the surface level, it's different individual languages, Russian, Malay, Chinese, Japanese, English. But under the surface, all the languages share the common underlying proficiency. So I'm just going to give you a hint. Does it happen to you, your colleagues, your friends, your classmates who have higher scores in their mother tongue, they also are likely to have a better performance in the foreign language? Is it true? Does it also counter to you? Those people who are not that much good at the foreign language subject, and right, they are more likely to also have the same level of their mother tongue. Do you think the languages actually link and counterpart together? Okay, yes. And under this, so we need to learn different foreign languages, and we need to, So how to help our learners to learn a foreign language? We need to provide different language, at least a different language system to them, and to help them to have the reference languages, and they can get more sensitive to metalinguistic awareness, which is also equip them with the autonomous learning. As a language teacher, we all know language cannot be taught only in the classroom time. So it's the final target of a language teacher is to help our learners to be a self-directed and self-disciplined autonomous learner by themselves, because they need to read a lot, they need to speak a lot, and it cannot be limited only in the classroom. And this is the class I've done last year with the junior high school students. And I invited 7 language guests, and I divide the students into different groups, and they can choose any one of the languages and have the interactive group work with the guest teachers. Of course, the class is done in English and in Japanese as well, because all our junior high school students, they have the Japanese as their mother tongue, and they also learned English. They have some basic English knowledge also, and how to compare a second foreign language to their mother tongue and to the common English, and which can also very, very be helpful for them to analyze a language, to learn how to learn a language, and even to learn different aspects of the language, like the pronunciation, like the letters, like Arabic, why Arabic is written from the right to left. All these things integrate together with the cultural introduction. And it shows out, it's very precious challenge for the junior high school students to have this kind of challenge. And also there are other action researches have done in secondary school. It's a combination with the mother tongue language class and also a foreign language class. Together, there are some designed lessons, and also it helped the learners to learn more about the grammar things of their mother tongue. And also, some of the findings you can tell here is by collaborating their mother tongue class and with the foreign language class, with the focus on language structure, which is one part of the metalinguistic awareness, actually can cultivate metalinguistic ability. And also, the metalinguistic awareness can be enhanced by practices. We don't need to focus every class using this focus, but by 1 or 2 times every semester or every term, actually it happened. It make a difference. And metalinguistic awareness can also lead to potential various learning, including culture, including understanding of the different cultures and showing respect to different cultures and being more tolerant, respectful, or more understanding about the cross-national cultures as well. And there are also teaching practice done in elementary school, and this is a grade 4, and it's a class to ask the learners to compare Japanese, English, and Chinese at the same time. There were activities done, and they are using dictionaries, using other subject textbooks, try to find the activities, like to find the kanji starting with white and look at their counterparts in English and Chinese to learn how the phrases are combined together. And these are the group work productions. And there were also some, this is the blackboard of the day. And these are the feedbacks done by the grade 4 students. They say, like, it was my first time to realize and color plus thing can form words, and which this is common by English language, Japanese language, and Chinese language as well. And the Japanese, they have a better understanding of the Japanese kanji as well. They say here, the Japanese uses kanji and hiragana, but the Chinese are all kanji. I feel like I can understand some Chinese, even I never studied it. I would also like to learn more Chinese. And in the middle, they say they even being curious about how kanji was made first. And they also found some common things among different languages. So all these case studies and practices showing you, as long as we provide stimulus and provide something for the learners, and they would be aware of the difference, and which these kind of metalinguistic abilities and can really help them to learn their mother tongue and also to learn their foreign language, and it works well. And that's the part of the part 2, talking about the paradigm change in the foreign language teaching and learning. And last, I would like to go through the paradigm change in teachers' professional learning. And so I will be using the ALT's case as showing you how Japanese teachers are doing professionally learning in pre-service or in-service phases. So an ALT is a assistant language teacher abbreviation. It's has been existed in Japanese schools for more than 30 years, and it's very common to see ALT teaching team teaching together with the Japanese teacher, but they are not considered as a full-time school teachers because they don't have the teaching license, and they cannot teach alone. And they have to teach with a Japanese teacher who have a teaching license for English. So that's make them a very vulnerable position in a school education. They teach students, they work with the school teachers, and they go to school and they work at the school at the daily base. But they don't have the certain professionally training as a teacher to be in the field of the professionalism. That's why I think the ALTs, there are many teachers who start to like ALT job. They want to stay as a full-time school teacher. They want to keep teaching English. And for this kind of people, ALTs, I guess there are lack of professional learning opportunities in Japanese schools. So this is the recent data about numbers of ALTs in Japanese schools. And every year it has increased until last year. It got dropped a little bit. The numbers of ALTs has decreased for the first time during these 35 years. And you could tell their hirement is not legit in most of the time. You could tell the ALTs are teaching in both elementary, junior high, and senior high. And you could tell it's a little bit drop from the last year. This actually has the background of all the teacher shortage in Japan. The public schools in Japan now is suffering from the record teacher shortage. Not that much graduates want to become a teacher. Even they get the teaching license, they actually don't become teachers because of the overwork, because of the payment is not as much as well as other like a company employees. And we all know teaching is a very devoted career, and it means sometimes you have to sacrifice your own personal life or time to work with your students. It's a very respected job, but sometimes the payment and the overwork situation for teachers is not very much welcomed for young people, and not much young people want to become a teacher. And this is not just true in Japan, but also in Western countries as well. I read some reports from Australia, from the US, and from the UK. They're all facing the teacher shortage at schools. So with the teacher shortage, and we have those ALTs who have been practicing and teaching at schools, so there is a very huge potential and necessary for us as a teacher educator to help the ALTs become the full-time school teachers, which can benefit our students' learning as well. And actually, in some of the prefectures in Japan, they are already having this policy to provide chances for ALTs to become a tenured school teachers. And many prefectures are already having the teacher hiring exam, especially for native English native speaker or English native level speakers. And for example, the requirement are at least to have a college degree, and they may have the age like under 40. And the ALTs may have more than 3 years of teaching experience in Japanese schools. And for the exam, to become a teacher, you have to pass the teacher hiring exam by each prefecture. And you need to know some Japanese, because Japanese is the working language in Japanese schools. And you're also asked to write essays and to do module lessons and to do interviews if you want to become a tenured school teacher as a foreigner in Japan. And of course, language is always a problem, but also the professional teaching competence is also likely to lacking among most of the ALTs, and they need such kind of professional learning opportunities. And this diagram shows a normal Japanese teacher, a normal in-service Japanese teachers, all the professional learning training opportunities they have. As a first-year teacher, as the third-year teacher, as the fifth-year teacher, once you get more school leaders, there are different life stage of the teachers, and they offer different training programs for them. But they don't include ALTs, and I do think ALTs also need such kind of a professional learning opportunities. And also, of course, there are some graduate schools. They welcome the ALTs as the graduate student to try to learn more about teaching, about learning, about curriculum in Japanese universities. But most of the programs are done in Japanese, and which might be hard for most of the ALTs. But there are also informal voluntary platforms, like the monthly Wednesday cafe meeting I hosted, and also for other like ALTs organize their own training online things. And such other ALT, they just enroll themselves into those online TESOL program or a CELT program to learn a certain related professional field. And you could see, yes, there are different city, different prefecture. They have the different policy to hire ALTs as the full-time school teachers. And this is one example of the hiring exam, teacher hiring exam for English teachers. So if you're a foreigner, you want to teach in a Japanese school, these are one of the examples of the one prefecture about the exam. This is about to write an essay to write your opinion about robots as new tools in therapy and education for children with autism. This is the topic of your IC. And you could tell of course, by interview, they will test your Japanese language proficiency, but also as the educational expert, you're expected to know more about the education issues. And this is about if you have a children in your classroom with autism, what kind of therapy and support you can give to your students. So it's more like educational expert exam, I say as well. And this is the native English teacher selection and recruitment guideline in Osaka Prefecture. And you could tell the salary per month, and you could tell the basic requirement. And also, I would like to introduce the Mesli Online Edu Cafe. It's a voluntary and free, and it's welcome everyone. It's bilingual, Japanese and English. It also helps the ALTs to learn, to master some Japanese vocabulary with school context. And it's online and has newsletter issued every meeting, and covers all the different topics ALT and other English teachers might counter in the way. And if you like the information, you can just click the newsletter, and it's all on Google Drive, and it's all open. And it has been covered all practical topics, and also lesson study meetings, and also any trendy topics in education, in language education. And you could see this is the former posters for our former meetings. And you could say we invite both the Japanese teachers and ALTs to share their teaching practice, try to make this group more open and more international. And newsletters are always issued to summarize the highlight and the opinions of the things. And there are all other collaborations with different organizations. And we could tell, and in the end, I do think the teachers need to learn more from each other and with each other and together. And this is the ideal multi-layered communities for professional learning, not exactly limited to English education, foreign language education, but also to all the teachers as a learning profession community, like to have a certain routine lesson study meetings every now and then, to talk with the teachers with different background, and always to be eager to learn from each other things. And this is the final image of the professional learning community cultivating from my side. And until now, I guess I've covered all the three parts in my talk. And if you have any questions, it's always welcome to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Associate Professor Lin Feng Wang. Okay, may I call upon Dr. Muhammad Shawal to lead the e-forum? Shall we reserve the final hours or the final minutes for Q&A session? Dr. Shawal, could you please proceed? Thank you. Okay, Alhamdulillah, we have 6 countries participating in the forum. We can see participants from Indonesia, China, Pakistan, Malaysia, Maldives, and Oman. Thank you, Alhamdulillah. Okay, Dr. Shawal, are you ready? Okay, so while waiting for Dr. Shawal, our technician will share a link. The link is yeah? Okay, we wait for the technician to share the link. Okay, for your information, our technician, we share the link in the chat box for the e-certificate. The e-certificate will be auto-generated. So kindly make sure that there are no typo errors, especially your full name and also your email address. Okay, gentle reminder. Please capitalize the first alphabet of your name. Thank you. Dr. Shawal?
Hello.
Yeah, Alhamdulillah. Okay. So
Okay.
he's ready. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the inspiring speech on foreign language education in Japan, a current issue and future prospect, Professor Lin Feng Wang. So actually, we have come to the end of our session, and before that, if let us move to Q&A session. Dear esteemed participant, you could ask a question orally or post the question via the chat spot. So feel free to ask any question.
Yeah, maybe while waiting for Prof. Muriama, am I
Professor,
right? Yes.
yeah.
Okay. I think we open for Q&A session while waiting for Prof. Moriyama to join us. Yes. Any questions? You may ask questions orally, or you may also type your questions in the chat box.
Hi, I'm Siti Aisyah. I would like to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
Previously, I'm an exchange student in Japan at Yokohama National University. So I have already experienced some of the education, how they provide the education in Japan. So I want to ask about after the pandemic, in the university level, did they offer an online course such as we taking in a UKM? Beside from the online learning, did they offer a course in online base? That's all.
Should I answer because Makiko and I from the same university, I guess I can answer from
Sure.
both.
Yes, please. You can
Yes,
answer the question.
in most of the Japanese universities, we do offer more online classes than before the pandemic. Because during the pandemic, all the teaching switched to online teaching. But now, because some of the classes require more like a face-to-face, like a workshop and more interactions. So in some course, teachers are more likely to prefer to have a face-to-face classroom teaching. And for our university, the Osaka Kyoiku University, at the undergraduate level, more face-to-face classes. But at the graduate school level, more online classes.
Okay, thank you.
Any question? We still have time.
Dr. Shawal,
Yeah.
Rizan here.
Yes, please, Professor.
Yeah, actually, I have my student in this webinar because I'm teaching the philosophy, the DPLI right now. I think this is a very good opportunity for the student to have to expose to what other country, the system of education and what been done in other country. So I take this opportunity to bring my student to attend this webinar, even though I just saw this at 2 o'clock. So, so I took their time, their lunch time. Okay, my question to our friend from Japan. Well, I wish I'll be there. Last May, I've been in Japan. Okay, you mentioned about the shortage of teacher in the system, right? That is, well, kind of universal problem, but your universal issue. But then I would like to know how Japan government overcome or motivate people to involve or to take part as a teacher in order to attend to the issue of the shortage of teacher?
Makiko, would you like to answer it?
Yes, please, both of you. Yeah.
You are muted.
日本ではどんなふうに教師になるモチベーションを高めていますかっていうことですよね。Okay, so first, I will try to answer. It's a very, a big question and big question, but as I told you during my lecture and work, in Japan, the job of teachers is said to be a kind of black job because we teachers have a lot of jobs to do. Oh, please. Okay. So first, the ministry now ministry has been trying to do, lift the burden, too many jobs from the teachers, not as individual task, but as as a Japan, as a country, ministry is now trying to do so, but it is still on the process. And also, as I told you during my lecture and work, it is very important. This is my opinion, but it is very important to reconfirm our identity as a teacher, because it is time for us to focus on our teacher's identity, teaching identity, our philosophy, our value to be a teacher. This is my opinion. How about Professor Lin Fong?
I can add up some policies or strategies, and most of the Japanese government are doing at least three. One is to go to high school and to tell those high school students how teaching is an amazing or charming job. So we university professors, every year we go to high schools, go to different high schools, and Makiko also went to different high schools to do this promotion, like what teaching career it is and what it's about, and of course how great the job is. We can kind of do this PR promotion to high school students, and we give them a little bit module lesson to see if you come to teacher university, teacher education university, this kind of image, this kind of how do we do teaching, how do we do learning, and to give this PR for high school students, and for them to encourage them to choose teaching as their profession in choosing a university. And the second strategy is like each prefecture or city, they are open the teacher's job to people, to experts who don't even have teaching license. So if you are expert in a certain sport, and if you just go to have the interview and have that teacher hiring exam, and you can become a teacher. And like the ALT also, as an English expert, they can hire you as a full-time school teacher and as an expert, even you don't have a teaching license. So they're more open to invite other experts to become a school teacher. They have this special policy. And the third one is because all teachers in, especially public school teachers in Japan, is considered as government workers. So, and there are some, I guess, benefits in the system. They're going to, I hope they're going to make more benefits to be a teacher. Like even we have spring and we have the summer and winter holidays, vacations, but we still work as a teacher during the holidays, right? Even the teachers are not at school. Even the students are not at school, but our teachers always need to be at school to kind of work. I guess they are going to be more hiring more people as assistants, especially for those paperwork and for those supportive teams, to help to bear a little bit the working burden from the teachers. I guess these three things, which are very detailed, implemented for most of the prefecture and cities. Yes, hope it answered your question.
Thank you for both of you. I think the promotion part is very important. I think to put a teacher as a profession that people would like to go or to have for their career. I think thank you. All right.
Okay, thank you for the
Okay.
question. Yes, please.
I have another questions.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, Professor. I am Nur Afrina binti Omar. Okay. I have a question. Can a person in Japan obtain an education qualification by self-study and without attending a school? And also, is Japan education stressful?
So your question about, is there any other way to get a teaching certificate or teaching lessons in Japan through online courses, right?
Yes. And also, is Japan education stressful?
Japanese, you mean for the public schools, do they also offer online teachings to students?
Yes. And also, is Japan education stressful or not?
I guess for school education in Japan, I mean from the grade 1 to grade 12, from elementary to high school, now mostly is a face-to-face class. But if the students are absent or they prefer to have the remote learning, because the Giga school program helped, each classroom has their own tablet, and they can do the live stream to the students, and the students can take the class from home. But basically, all the students go to a school to attend face-to-face classrooms. But for those students who have this kind of request or concerns, there was always a tablet live stream in the classroom to have the remote learning. And the other question about the how to get a teaching lessons online or from outside Japan, is it possible, Professor Makiko? Is it possible to get a teaching certificate in Japan without attending to face-to-face classes?
もう一度言ってください。
Are there any alternative ways to get a teaching certificate in Japan? Well, from what I've known, the mainstream way to get a teaching certificate in Japan is go to enroll in a teacher education program or curriculum. After 4 years, after your teaching practice at schools, you can get a certain thing, which is the easiest and the mainstream one. And for other people who don't attend to this course and they still want to get one, they can get it through the Open University. They can take credits, because to get a teaching certificate, it requires a certain credits for related courses. If you can get all these credits from a different university or from Open University, you can get it. But most of the courses are done in Japanese. And also you need to have your teaching practice in Japanese schools for 3 weeks.
All right. Thank you, Professor.
Okay. Yeah, they also have a question in the chat box. So, they're interested to know, in Japan, usually how many students in the class? The
Yes, I guess
minimum and the
Professor Makiko
maximum.
can answer that. Yes.
And what may I add one more point? What time class hours start at school and how many hours?
Okay. In Japan, elementary school, the size of the class of the elementary school is 40, 35. If the number of the elementary school is over 35, for example, 36 or 37, we divide into 2 classes, so under 20. But the size of the class of a junior or senior high school is 40 now. Yeah. And one more question is, what? Let me check the chat. One more question is
Well, yeah, 1 more hour. What
hours.
time class hour? Yeah, how long?
So junior and senior high school, the class hour is 50 minutes. But in elementary school, it is maybe Linfeng-san 40 minutes?
40 to 45, yes.
40 or 45. 40 or 45. But high school, it is 50 minutes. Yeah. Yeah. I hope. That's it. And
There's another question in the chat box.
Yes, okay. And how are students assessed and evaluated in Japan elementary school? Is there any exam for the students or no exam in the school?
one sensei will answer this question. 3観点ですよ。3観点。
Yes, the students are evaluated and assessed in all school levels in Japan. But instead of a paper test with the scores, it's more we evaluate students through mainly 3 categories. We call it evaluation 3 categories. One is the basic knowledge and the skills. And the second one is expression and thinking. And what else? And the third one is how do you your learning attitude. So basically, these 3 mainly categories. It will be evaluated like A, B, C, D. Not exactly the scores, but the A, B, C, D, and this is the way. Instead, because there is no fail during the at least elementary school and junior high school, everybody goes to next stage. It's more like to monitor the learners' learning progress and to monitor their weakness and strengths in order to help them better in the next stage. So it's not for screening or selecting, but for how to help them better according to their needs.
Okay, while waiting for Professor Komoriyama, there's still have a question in the chat box. Okay, let me. Okay, so okay. Okay, so how many subject or courses do students take per semester or per year? This, I think, for the university. Yes. Or maybe for this, for the this, because it's a general question, maybe we refer to the school.
Makiko, do you want to answer? How many subjects in elementary school?
Oh, I can answer it about high schools, but it is
Yeah, high school is
difficult.
also.
High school
Let's
is
go back.
okay.
Mm.
You know, elementary school and junior high schools are compulsory education in Japan, but a senior high school is not a compulsory education in Japan. So I have an experience of being a, teacher as a high school teacher. So on the base of that experience, we have 5 main category. Japanese, foreign language, mathematics, and science, and social studies. And that is a main subject. And we have another other subjects such as arts and physical education and 家庭か domestic home studies.
Home
Mhm.
economics.
Oh, home economics. Yeah, something like that. But in high schools, there is some subjects which each high school can make.
Okay.
Okay, do you
So,
understand? I
yes,
hope.
yeah. So I think Dr. Maslawati, maybe we can wrap up the session. Dr. Maslawati, you want to wrap up the session? Because Prof. Mariama is here.
Okay, I think that's all. Thank you, Prof. Tanaka Makiko, and also Prof. Lim Feng Wang. Okay, shall we invite Prof. Ko
Mariama.
Moriyama? Okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay, hello, Prof.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes.
Can I share the screen then?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
sure.
Okay, shall I introduce you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's up
Okay,
to
Dr.
you.
Shawat, I think we can start
Yeah,
introducing.
okay. So, okay, Prof. Ko, can you share the screen? Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
can you
So,
just a moment?
okay, yes.
Oh,
Let's move to the next speaker. So our final speaker is the Professor Dr. Ko Moriyama. He is educational psychology from the Hector Research Institute of Education Sciences and Psychology, University of Tübingen, Germany. His research drawn on broad psychological theories regarding motivation and cognition from the neural level to the social level. His specific topic of interest include motivation and memory, motivation, and metacognition, the nature and the consequence of competition, nature of intrinsic motivation, curiosity. He has been also working on research methodology and statistical issue in psychology. His today presentation is on meta-motivation belief in education. Please give a warm welcome to our guest speaker, Professor Dr. Ko Moriyama.
Hi. First of all, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
It's okay. Thank you for the invitation. So, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to give a presentation today. My name is Ko Murayama. I'm Japanese. I studied in Japan. I got my PhD in Japan, and now I ended up with being a professor in Germany, which I never expected. But anyway, I'm very honored to give a talk today. My topic that I'm going to talk about today is meta-motivation belief. So this is a sentence inscribed in the forecourt of the Temple Apollo at Delphi. Excuse me. And this says, "Know thyself." Actually, this is a artwork, not the actual historic thing, but you may already know the sentence. It means that know yourself. What does that mean? You may feel that you already know yourself very well, but this is actually the topic of my talk today. So the question is, do you know yourself? Metacognition is an academic field in which researchers examine this question in detail. Metacognition is defined as a cognition about cognition, that is, knowledge or awareness about cognition. There are some variations. Some people examine meta-memory, which is cognition about memory. Other people examine meta-comprehension. This is about cognition about comprehension, especially text comprehension. And some people recently started working on meta-motivation, which is cognition about motivation. And I will get to this topic later, but I'm going to talk about the meta-memory first. There are two aspects of metacognition. One is monitoring, and the other is control. Monitoring means that you are going to monitor the current status of the learning. That is, it's asking, is my learning going well? And you have a sense of whether your learning is going well or not. This is the kind of monitoring aspect of cognition. And control is the process in which people control their learning process. So it's asking the question, how can I regulate my learning? When you study in schools, both monitoring and control are very important, and therefore metacognition is an important component for learning. In this talk, I'm going to basically talk about the monitoring aspect of metacognition. And it's important to acknowledge that accurate monitoring is essential for self-regulated learning. Why? Because if our monitoring is inaccurate, we cannot select appropriate learning strategies. That is, when you are studying, you need to monitor your progress about your learning, or you need to monitor how well your learning is going well, or you need to monitor the difficulties that you have in learning. If you cannot accurately monitor your learning status, you don't know what to do next. Or if you have a inaccurate monitoring of your learning status, you may even select maladaptive learning strategies. I will show you what I mean later. So to demonstrate the importance of accurate monitoring, I'm going to give you some demonstrations about meta-learning and meta-memory. This is a study conducted by Cornell and Bjork. And in this study, they compared two different learning strategies. The first one is mass learning strategy, and the other one is interleave learning strategy. Mass learning strategy or mass practice is a strategy in which learners study the same set of materials repeatedly before proceeding to the next set of study materials. On the other hand, interleave practice is a learning strategies with which learners practice different sets of learning materials alternately. I'm going to show you these two different strategies right now. by using the material by using a material used by Cornell and Bjork. In this study, participants learn the styles of painters, and there are two different ways of presenting the paintings of painters: must practice and interleave practice. So you are going to be a participant of this experiment. I'm going to show you these materials. So this is a must condition. So you are going to see the set of paintings of painters, and your task is to learn the styles of the painters. So please try to be a participant of this experiment, and please try to learn the styles of the painters that I'm going to present. Are you ready? I hope you can successfully learn the styles of the painters that I presented. This is a must condition in their experiment. Then there's another condition called the interleaved condition. Again, you are going to see paintings and their painters, and your task is to learn the styles of these painters. So I'm going to show you another set of painters and paintings. Are you ready? I'm going to start. Hello. Okay. Now, did you see the difference between must condition and interleaved condition? In the must condition, the painters are blocked by their names. So in the first block, the paintings for the same painter was presented. Then another set of paintings from a different painter was presented. This is mass learning. And this is a kind of a common strategy learners use when they learn school subjects. You know, if there are several topics they need to learn, they first study one set of materials first, then they move on to the next learning materials and so on. On the other hand, in the interleaved learning condition, you are presented with painters of the paintings in an alternate manner. That is, the learning materials are no longer blocked. They are interleaved with each other. This is a difference between these two different conditions. And in this experiment, participants are also presented with a delayed induction test. That is, after learning these materials, they are presented with novel paintings from artists and the researchers asked participants to identify the artist of each painting. It's like this. So can anyone identify the name of the painter of this painting? It's not an easy task, I know, but do you have a sense? Can anyone identify? I think it's actually Luis. Yeah. Can you identify the painter of this painting?
You may write in
Awesome.
chat. Yeah, yeah, that's all. Yes.
Oh, no one is right. It's black. It's black. I know it's a difficult task because I didn't use the whole set of materials. I shortened the experiment, but this is what participants did in their experiment. But the point of this experiment is whether they got how much they remember the styles of the painters. And this is the results. First, okay, so they did this memory test, and after they also had a metacognition question, which is the point of this presentation. In this metacognition question, participants were asked which study schedule, must condition, or interleaved condition benefited learning more. And I also want to ask you, which condition do you think would show better memory performance? Or in other words, do you think you would do better in the must condition or interleaved condition? Maybe you can write in a chat whether you feel that must condition was easier to learn or interleaved condition was easier to learn. Can you write an opinion in the chat? Yeah, it's super clear. Most people or all people say that math condition would be easier to learn and they benefit learning more. And this is also the case in this experiment that they conducted. So the y-axis is the number of participants, and then there are three options: math condition benefit them better, or interleaved condition benefited them better, or they feel that math condition and interleaved condition didn't make a difference. And many participants felt that math condition was easier, and therefore their memory performance in the math condition would be better. But when you see the actual memory performance, it's super opposite. Here, y-axis is a kind of learning performance, so accuracy of the test. And you can forget about the x-axis. Basically, it's a kind of number of trials. But as you can see, regardless of the test block, interleaved condition showed better memory performance than math condition. And I'm pretty sure that if I conduct a memory test here to the audience, we would get very similar results. Because the benefit of interleaved condition over math condition is one of the most robust phenomena established in psychology. So when you learn something, it's best to interleave the materials rather than to block the materials. Nevertheless, people tend to feel that math condition would be easier to learn, and math condition is the best learning strategy when they study learning materials. What does that mean? This means that despite the fact that interleaved learning would be better learning strategy, people tend to use math learning strategy because they simply believe that they are more effective. As you saw in this experiment, many people felt that math condition would be effective, despite the fact that actual learning benefit is gained through the interleaved learning. This means that if our monitoring of learning is inaccurate, we tend to use wrong learning strategies to facilitate our learning. So accurate monitoring is very important. Accurate metacognition is very important, but sometimes we have a wrong metacognition to understand our learning status. I can show you some more examples from meta-memory research. This is a study conducted in Korea. In this experiment, participants are presented with word pairs, and after the presentation of each pair, they rated how likely they would remember the word pair on an immediate memory test, a memory test after 24 hours, and a memory test after a week. So after learning materials, you are asked, how much do you think you can remember these materials immediately after this learning session? Or how much do you think you would remember these materials after 24 hours? How much do you think you'd remember these materials after 1 week? And actual memory performance was assessed. What did they find? Actual memory performance declined over time. This makes sense. People just forget. We know that. After a day, you forget a lot of materials, and after a week, you forget even more materials. Everyone knows this. However, when they plotted the actual their judgmental learning, their metacognitive prediction about memory performance, it was like this. There are two important observations. First, despite the fact that people tend to forget over time, people tend to be very overconfident about their memory performance. That is, they tend to underestimate forgetting. Second, people tend to be also very optimistic about their learning performance. They tend to think that they don't forget, but they actually forget a lot. So this means that people are very optimistic about forgetting. Let me give you another example predicting real learning. In this experiment, they also studied word pairs, and they also gave judgment learning. How likely would you remember the target? And importantly, this session was repeated 3 times. This cycle was repeated 3 times. More specifically, they learned the word pairs, then they had a test. And when they learned the word pairs, they also gave a metacognitive rating. They did that again, and they did it again. And this is the result. What happened? When they repeated the learning material, of course, they learn more and more. We know this. Once we repeat the learning materials, of course, we can remember more. However, what is interesting is that when we looked at the judgment learning, that is metacognitive rating, they tend to underestimate the learning performance over time. They tend to believe that with a repetition, they don't learn a lot, despite the fact that they actually learn more and more. This indicates that people tend to be underconfident with practice. So in summary, what they showed is that people tend to underestimate their forgetting. They do not really study as they believe they do not forget. And people tend to underestimate their learning. They do not learn repeatedly because they do not appreciate their potential for learning. People tend to be insensitive their power to learn. So these meta-memory studies indicate that people's metacognition is often inaccurate. People don't appreciate the benefit of interlevel learning, and people tend to forget before forget. And people don't appreciate the power of repeated learning. And again, the problem of this inaccurate metacognition is that this may lead to the use of maladaptive learning strategies. Again, people tend to believe that mass learning is more beneficial, despite the fact that it's not that beneficial. But because of this inaccurate metacognition, people tend to rely on mass learning. This is a problem because this means that they miss the opportunity to make use of more effective learning strategies. And indeed, this metacognitive inaccuracy illusion is really robust, and it's not easy to change it. Previous studies also show that it is hard to correct this misbelief. So in this study by Yang, she tried to correct the belief that mass learning is worse than the interlevel learning. She made a lot of effort to change this belief, but she failed. She was unable to change people's belief that mass learning is better than interlevel learning. Okay, so let me get to the main topic of the main topic that I wanted to talk about, which is meta-motivation. What is meta-motivation? Meta-motivation is also monitoring and control motivation. So I talked about meta-memory, which is monitoring and control monitoring and control memory. But now I'm going to talk about monitoring and control motivation. Again, like meta-memory, accurate monitoring is critical. Because if you believe that some motivation regulation strategy is adaptive and this is inaccurate, you tend to rely on maladaptive meta-motivation regulation strategies. But can we really accurately monitor motivation? This is a question that I asked in my projects. To discuss the meta motivation project I'm conducting, there's one important distinction that I would like to tell you in advance. That is a distinction intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is a motivation driven by extrinsic incentives, such as money, teachers' praise, and so on. Some students or learners are motivated by extrinsic incentives. Some students want to study hard because that way teachers they would be praised by teachers, or their parents would praise them. On the other hand, there's intrinsic motivation. It's a motivation driven by internal feeling of enjoyment. If your students learn out of the enjoyment because they are fun, then this is intrinsic motivation. One critical difference between extrinsic motivation and intrinsic motivation is that extrinsic incentives or extrinsic motivation are always visible, whereas intrinsic motivation is hard to see. You can easily recognize that teacher would praise you when you work hard. So the outcome of being motivated is quite obvious in the case of extrinsic motivation. On the other hand, you don't see enjoyment very well, and as a result, intrinsic motivation is sometimes very difficult to recognize. And this makes a difference when we discuss meta motivation. So to make my point, let me show you some studies that I conducted to examine the accuracy of meta motivation. In this set of studies, we presented learners or participants with very boring tasks, like a Franca task for 30 minutes without a break, or we gave a long text, actually the text that I wrote, and we asked participants to delete E's from this 10-page of text. This is super boring because this is just meaningless. You are given a text of English and you need to exclude or cross out every E appearing on the text. And after doing this boring task, participants reported their motivation for the task. Of course, they are boring tasks, so they said that it was boring. But the trick of this experiment is that before they worked on the boring task, we also asked participants to make a prediction about their motivation for the task. So before working on this boring task, we explain the task and then ask, how much do you think you'd enjoy the task after 20 minutes or something like that? Then we compare this predicted motivation and actual motivation. Like metamemory research, if they have an accurate monitoring of motivation, this predicted motivation and actual motivation should not be different. But sometimes people may overestimate their motivation, or sometimes they may underestimate their motivation. What we found is that regardless of the types of the task learning materials we used, people enjoyed boring tasks way more than they expect. That is, when we compared predicted enjoyment of the task and actual enjoyment of the task, they tend to predict that, oh, task could be really boring. I cannot work on this for more than 20 minutes. But actually, they enjoyed more than they predicted. That is, they feel that, oh, task was actually more enjoyable than I thought. So people tend to underestimate their intrinsic motivation for the task. We also gave extrinsic incentives to participants. Excuse me. So that is, we gave rewards to participants. In this case, we gave money to participants. So we told participants that they can get money by doing well in the task. Then they actually, what we found is that they tended to overestimate their motivation to work on the task. That is, they predicted that this is no reward condition and reward condition. When we gave rewards to participants, they tended to predict that they would be more motivated with the reward. However, actual enjoyment was not that different, meaning that they tended to overestimate the power of extrinsic incentives. We also replicated these findings using other tasks, but I'm going to skip this slide. So what we have found is that people tend to underestimate our power to motivate ourselves in terms of intrinsic motivation. We underestimate our power to enjoy the task even if the task is very boring. On the other hand, we tend to overestimate the power of extrinsic motivation. So we tend to believe that extrinsic incentives would be an effective way to motivate ourselves, despite the fact that extrinsic incentives are not that helpful to sustain their motivation. We also try to demonstrate this finding using a different task. In this experiment, we asked participants to just wait in a dark, silent room for 20 minutes. And we asked participants about their motivation or enjoyment for these 20 minutes. In this experiment, participants did nothing. We asked participants to do nothing. We just asked participants say, sit in the room and just think for 20 minutes. They were deprived of their electric devices, so they couldn't check any mobile phones. And it's a dark room, and they also put on earphone, so they couldn't listen to anything, and they couldn't see anything in this dark room. And after staying in this dark room for 20 minutes, they rated their motivation for the task. But like the previous experiment, we also asked participants to make a prediction about this waiting session for the next 20 minutes. And we compare the predicted motivation and actual motivation. This is what we found. Here, this is a predicted condition, and this is an experience condition. That is, this is a predicted motivation, and this is an experience motivation. What we found is that people tend to predict that they will not enjoy this 20 minutes at all, but actually they enjoyed this waiting period way more than they expected. People enjoy just waiting more than they expected. This means that before doing the task, they thought that, oh, it's a dark room, I wouldn't be able to check my mobile phone, it's going to be very boring. But after 20 minutes, they realize this 20 minutes is really enjoyable. What does that mean? Again, to make a decision, accurate metacognitive judgment is really important. But if we have an inaccurate idea of how motivated I would be, they may make a wrong choice. In the case of this experiment, they tend to believe that just waiting is not that interesting. This implies that, So then you have a maladaptive action choice. And in the case of this experiment, this implies that, for example, imagine that you are waiting in a bus stop, and next bus comes in the next 20 minutes. The next bus comes in 20 minutes. So you have 20 minutes free time. What would you do? Many people tend to check mobile phones for the 20 minutes. And I used to do that as well. Because they believe that just waiting for 20 minutes is boring and not enjoyable. And that's why they check mobile phone. But my experiment indicated that this may not be the right choice because people tend to overestimate the power of checking mobile phone or doing something external. On the other hand, we tend to underestimate our power to enjoy or entertain ourselves during waiting. This means that even if you have 20 minutes spare time, it may not be a good idea to check the mobile phone because you can entertain yourself just by thinking. By checking mobile phone, you miss the opportunity to entertain yourself. But because of our inaccurate meta motivation, we tend to check mobile phone more frequently than just waiting for 20 minutes. In fact, in this experiment, we conducted another study in which we gave participants two choices or two options. In the first option, participants are presented with two options in this experiment. In the first option, they actually need to wait in a dark room for 20 minutes. In the second option, participants could play with the internet. And we asked participants, which option would you prefer? Most people chose internet, which makes sense because they believe that playing with the internet is more enjoyable than just waiting for just 20 minutes. But when we actually checked the enjoyment for the task, internet and waiting didn't make a difference. This means that although waiting on the internet wouldn't make a difference, people tend to believe that internet is more enjoyable, and that's why people tend to engage in internet rather than just waiting for 20 minutes. So the main message here is that inaccurate meta motivation leads to suboptimal decision making. Let me give you another example in which people overestimate the power of extrinsic incentives. To demonstrate this, I'm going to explain one phenomenon which was established in psychology. This is called undermining effect. Undermining effect is a phenomenon in which provision of performance-based extrinsic incentives, such as money, decreases intrinsic motivation for a task. In short, if you give money, you tend to think that money would increase their motivation. But previous psychological experiments show that giving extrinsic incentives such as money or praise would decrease their intrinsic motivation. I actually conducted a neuroimaging study to examine the neural correlates of the undermining effect. So this is just a demonstration of the undermining effect. In this experiment, participants are split into two groups, reward group and the control group. And they played with a game-like task, which is called stopwatch task. I don't explain this task in detail, but this is like a game. There is a critical difference between reward group and the control group. In the reward group, participants received a performance-based payment. That is, for every success, participants received rewards in this reward group. On the other hand, participants in the control group were not instructed anything about the monetary incentives. That is, they never expected to get any monetary incentives. After this session, by the way, this is a fMRI experiment. That is, participants actually did the experiment in a fMRI scanner because we wanted to see the brain activation when participants worked on this task. After this session, participants are asked to wait in a small room. This is called free choice period. In this waiting period, participants are asked to do whatever they wanted because this is just a waiting period. So participants are told that they need to wait for the next session, but experimenters need to prepare for the next session. So you need to wait in this waiting room for the next 10 minutes or so. So from the participant's perspective, this is just a waiting period. As a result, participants thought that they could do what they wanted. In the room, there's a magazine which they can read, or there's a couch also, so participants could take a nap. And importantly, there's also a computer in the room by which they can play with this stopwatch task if they wanted. Again, this is just a waiting period for the participants. So participants are never forced to do this stopwatch task during this waiting period. But if they played with this task during the waiting period, this means that they are enjoying the task or they are motivated to do the task. So we used the frequency of participants play with this game-like task as an index of intrinsic motivation. After this waiting period, participants are put into the scanner again to assess the brain activation. But in the second session, the critical difference is that both reward group and the control group participants did not receive any performance-based incentives. So there's no payment for the performance of the task. This is a behavior results. That is, we assess the frequency with which participants played with a game-like task during the waiting period. And as you can see, participants in the reward group played with a game-like task less frequently than the participants in the control group. This means that after receiving the payment for the task, participants in the reward group lost the interest to do the task. So despite the common belief that extrinsic incentives would increase people's motivation, actually this could decrease people's motivation. But what about the brain activation? In the first session, we check the brain activation in the control group participants and reward group participants. And this is called the stratum, which is a kind of motivation center in the brain. And this is also stratum. As you can see, when reward was promised, participants in the reward group showed higher activation in the stratum, motivation center in the brain, which makes sense because they were excited when they are promised performance-based payment. But the question is, what happened in the second session, in which no rewards were promised? When you look at the brain activation for the control group participants, they sustained the activation in the stratum. This means that participants in the control condition showed the sustained motivation in the first session and second session. For both sessions, they didn't receive any performance-based payment. But what happened for the reward group? There's nothing. So after receiving the performance-based payment between the first session and second session, their motivation center was never activated, meaning that they were no longer motivated for the task. So this is also another demonstration that extrinsic incentives could decrease people's intrinsic motivation. Taking advantage of these findings, we examine the people's meta-motivation belief about how rewards influence intrinsic motivation. That is, in this experiment, this Murema et al. 2010 is the experiment that we showed. And we established a paradigm to induce an undermining effect. So using this task, we can see that undermining effect happens. Monetary incentives to decrease people's motivation. But I was interested in meta-motivation of participants. So we asked this question, can people predict the undermining effect? Can people accurately monitor their motivation status when they make predictions? For that purpose, what we did is that we presented the description of the experiment that I showed you and asked participants to make a prediction about the results. This is a simple survey study, and participants only had 3 options from which they choose. That is, we presented the scenario of the experiment that I showed you, and then we asked participants to make a prediction about the outcome of this experiment. So we show the scenario of the experiment, but we didn't show them the results of the experiment. And we asked participants to make a prediction of the outcome. There were 3 options. One option is that participants increase intrinsic motivation. The second option is participants decrease the intrinsic motivation. And the third option is the manipulation of the reward didn't have any effect on their intrinsic motivation. As I showed you, the right answer is participants decreased intrinsic motivation. That is, there's a negative effect of extrinsic incentives on intrinsic motivation. After participants made a choice, they also gave a confidence rating. So they also indicated how confident they were about their answer or their choice. We conducted the study twice, once with a Japanese university sample and once with an online experiment. But the results are quite consistent. In this survey study, most people, like 56% from the first sample and 90% from the second sample, indicated that the experiment would show a positive effect. However, as I showed you, the right answer is the blue one, negative effect. Only a minority of people predicted that extrinsic incentives would decrease their intrinsic motivation. Most people believe that extrinsic incentives would increase their intrinsic motivation. But that's also interesting is that we also assess confidence ratings about their choice. And what we found is that participants who chose positive effect showed high confidence. This means that people firmly but wrongly believe in the beneficial effect of rewards on intrinsic motivation. They tend to believe that giving extrinsic incentives would increase their intrinsic motivation, and they are more confident about it, despite the fact that this could sometimes undermine their intrinsic motivation. So in summary, like meta memory, people's meta motivation is often inaccurate. People underestimate our power of intrinsic motivation, and people overestimate the power of extrinsic rewards. And this may be why people rely on extrinsic rewards to control themselves or others. Indeed, when I'm working in academia, and sometimes we are presented with extrinsic incentives, like you need to submit grant proposals to get grants, or you need to actually hit this target and so on. I didn't understand why they do this, because without such target or kind of regulations, I like my research. I would enjoy my research. And of course, I need salary, but I don't need any more incentives than salaries to do my own research. But universities sometimes impose some extrinsic incentives to force me to do research, which actually undermine my intrinsic motivation. And I have been wondering why. It just, doesn't work and it backfires. But after doing these experiments, I understand better. People tend to believe that extrinsic incentives are powerful motivator. This is because extrinsic incentives are so easy to see, so easy to recognize. On the other hand, our intrinsic motivation is so hard to touch and you cannot see it. Therefore, people tend to underestimate our power to enjoy or entertain ourselves. Therefore, if we want to change the current status, it may be important to intervene stakeholders' belief to change the current state. What I wanted to say here is that when you want to change the students' intrinsic motivation, let's say you want to increase students' intrinsic motivation. Of course, there are many different ways to increase the intrinsic motivation of students, but sometimes the low when students are not motivated, of course, it's because they are not motivated. But this may be because there are so many extrinsic incentives imposed by the stakeholders around the learners. So it may be a good idea to intervene stakeholders' belief rather than student itself to change the current state. That's the end of my presentation, and thank you for your listening.
Okay, thank you, Professor Ko Moriyama, for very good talk. Okay, let's move to the question and answer session. So if you have any questions, and if you have any question, or participant, if you have any question, please could you ask a question orally or post in the question via the chat box. So due the time constraint, we'll limit to only 3 questions. Any question?
Yes, Dr. Murayama, I have a question about the experiment, about the tent. Yes, first the study methods, which is more anti-intrinsic, but it's actually more effective for us to learn. It's very interesting.
Thank you.
But yes, but for the experiment, like putting people into a silent room, the sensory deprivation. I have 2 questions. First is because I don't know about the details about this experiment. So what research design do you have to prevent like a Hawthorne effect? Like maybe it's not just a normal some normal tent to stay, but it's actually the maybe the participants, they know it's an experiment, so they tend to motivate themselves to it's actually the motivation, maybe it's the challenge of the experiment, other than to stay in the silent room itself. And that's one question. Another question is if the actual motivation is reported by the participants themselves, is it possible that they will report a high motivation in order to just avoid the cognitive dissonance? Like if they admit that they are attending a boring task, so they will feel that bad emotion. So they try to persuade themselves that it's actually not that bad. If that's possible. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. For the first question, it's a great point. This is an experiment and participants should be genuinely motivated to work on the task. That makes sense. But if that is the case, they should also indicate high motivation when they make a prediction about the motivation. That's my feeling. You know, if they are honored to be part of the experiment, they should also indicate the prediction motivation. But the finding is that in comparison to the actual motivation, predicted motivation is lower. So I don't believe Hawthorne effect can explain the whole findings, but at the same time, of course, we need to actually examine this in a more naturalistic environment to prevent this effect. And for the second cognitive dissonance effect, and this is also a great point, we did some complicated analysis so it's a valid point. So we did some complicated analysis to exclude that possibility in the paper. I don't explain this analysis in this talk because it's just complicated. But if you are interested, you can look at the paper and then implement the online materials. You can see the analysis we conducted, and I hope you to be convinced. But if not, you can always reach me out to do further discussion.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Maruyama. So any other questions? There's a question in chat spot. I have a question. How can an educator apply this to student in classroom? Any suggestion? So it's the question from Timothy.
Yeah, so of course it's a great question. First of all, we need to be aware of our metacognitive illusions. In the case of metamemory, we first need to know the most effective learning strategies. If you look at the textbook or educational psychology, you can see the list of the learning strategies that would be effective to learn. But at the same time, understanding good strategy is not enough. You need to also convince students that these are really effective because people tend to underestimate the effectiveness of learning strategies. So in the case of math learning and interleave learning, many students do not believe that interleave learning is better than math learning. You need to convince them. It's not easy, but it's an important first step. So even if you understand which learning strategy to be more effective, as a teacher or as an educator, you also need to convince the importance of it because people tend to have an illusion of effectiveness of learning strategies. It's the same about motivation. People tend to use extrinsic incentives to motivate themselves because they believe it's more effective. But as I showed you, extrinsic incentives are not sometimes effective. I also know the case when extrinsic incentives are effective. So you need to know the effective timing of it. But anyway, people tend to underestimate our power to enjoy or entertain ourselves. If teachers don't know it, teachers tend to rely on extrinsic incentives because our belief is by default, extrinsic incentives is effective. So we need to overcome this metacognitive illusion. So first, we need to check the textbook education psychology to have a accurate scientific understanding of what kind of learning or motivation strategies to be effective. And then you also need to understand that we tend to have a wrong belief about it. Then you need to convince yourself or you need to convince the students.
Okay, thank you, Professor Komoriyama. Thank you for your inspiring speech. And I think, thank you so much for the participant. I will pass to the Dr. Maslawati because we end of the session.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Komoriyama. Thank you for the enlightening session. So we have come to the end of our session today. Together, I believe that we have been inspired by the speaker's talk. And I think the Q&A session is also very engaging. Okay, for those esteemed audience, kindly fill in your details in the link provided via chat box. So I really hope that you do not copy and paste and share the link to your friends who are not attending the session. The e-certificate will be auto-generated. Kindly make sure that there are no typo errors, particularly on your full name and also your email address. As a gentle reminder, please capitalize the full alphabet of your name. So with that, we end the session today. Thank you. Shall we take a group photo? Could you please, everyone, could you please switch on your video? So Puan Dila will take our group photo. Thank you, Puan Dila. Puan Dila has contributed a lot to the success of this e-forum. Thank you. I will also thank you, the committee members who have organized the event. Okay. 1, 2, 3. First. Okay, first page. 1, 2, 3. Okay, another one. First page. 1. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we will end the session shortly. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So we will end the session shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof. Makiko.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Lin Feng Wang. Okay,
Thank you. Great session. Thank you.
Thank you. So we managed to get almost 400 participants
Thank you.
from 6 countries. Thank you, Prof. Makiko.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Lin Feng Wang.
Thank you, everyone. Great
Thank
session.
you.
Thank you. So we managed to get almost 400 participants
Thank you.
from 6 countries. Thank you, Prof. Makiko.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Lin Feng Wang from 6 countries.
Thank you.
Great
Thank
session.
you.
Thank you. So we managed to get almost 400 participants
Thank you.
from 6 countries. Thank you, Prof. Makiko. So we managed to
Thank
get
you.
thank you, Prof. Lin Feng Wang from 6 countries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your presence. We really appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.